Come one, come all to learn and grow. Welcome to the Village Talk Show. Come one, come all to learn and grow. Welcome to the Village Talk Show. We discuss what people need to know, empowering them to learn and grow. We discuss what people need to know, empowering them to learn and grow. Give praises to Jehovah, from whom all blessing and knowledge will flow. Blessing and knowledge will flow. The Village Talk Show, dedicating to empowering the community to live a healthy, safe, and financially capable life, helping each one of us in realizing our dream at any age, any point, starting from today, day. Success. Come one, come all to learn and grow. Welcome to the Village Talk Show. Come one, come all to learn and grow. Welcome to the Village Talk Show. We discuss what people need to know, empowering them to learn and grow. We discuss what people need to know, empowering them to learn and grow. Success is not spoken, it is done. Success is done. Come on now. The Village Talk Show. Talk Show. The Village Talk Show.
Hi, good afternoon and good evening, and welcome to the Village Radio Talk Show. I am Roderick Daly. I am your host. Um, um, just following up with all of you about this evening conversation. We have a lot to talk about. Um, Regarding what's going on in our community, in our nation, what's going on in our community, in our nation, worldwide, right, and everything else that's happening in the United States and everything else. So this is really exciting. Welcome to the Village Radio Talk Show. I'm Roderick Daly. I am your host. I have, our co-host John Sampson, our co-hostess Dr. Joan Bryan. Also, her birthday today, so she's going to be a little bit later. She does something celebratory for her birthday, and also our executive producer Andre Doman, who's on ear right now. We're looking at face. Apparently, he and Dr. Bryant live together because they have the same furniture. It looks like, So that's that. It is hot in the studio, so I'm going to turn on the AC to get a little warmer. We're going to come to some conversation about what is happening within our community. So very exciting for all of you, and blessings. Hey, Mr. Doman, good morning. How are you, sir?
What's good? Welcome to the village, everybody. And just to emphasize, it's just a background, all right? It's just a background. So it'd be nice if place look like that too. All right, but I'm good, man. I'm good. We coming to a close. Things running smooth. Things running smooth. How about you?
Everything is good. I thank God for being here. This is so. I am so appreciative of what is happening. Appreciative of life. Thank you, God, for giving me the opportunity to be here. And I'm going to predict another Father's Day, right? Another Father's Day. So I'm very excited about that.
That's good, man. That's good. Any plans?
As of right now, baseball. That's it. Baseball and dominoes. That's what I have planned.
First two loves, huh?
You know, so that's true, right? So we just have to say,
So
uh,
not to jump in, but just to make sure before it gets too late, start with one of these commercials. All right.
yes,
So
go ahead.
here we
Let's
go.
do that. Let's do that right away.
You're up.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you so much for joining us today. This is
Mute the phone, by the way.
this said again.
Mute the phone.
Oh, my phone. Oh, so just that you were brought to you by the Single Parent University, um, where it's about our parents, our young people getting a better understanding of what is happening in our community, how you can get answers, get questions, figure it out, personal development, mindful parenting, support seminar, financial management, nutrition and wellness. We also look at looking at if you want to come out, they'll provide you with free transportation, free um, child care, um, free resume and social support hub and cover letter. So do come out 646-779-6767 or text SPU to 71441. Again, text SPU to 71441. Um, and find out and get some answers. So, Andre, the school year is winding down. What are some of the highs and lows for the school year? You're muted. Andre, you're muted.
Well, one of my philosophies, I was going to start with my highs though, but one of my philosophies, even this year, the past couple of years, is just really learning more about the financial sector and all. And I guess even with this year itself, just watching the financial market and seeing how, the Feds, they come up and they talk about what's going on in the market, real estate, stocks, all that stuff. Um, it's been it's been nice to even just talk to my students about some of those things too, right? Like debt, money, and all those things, and they really pay attention. And this is not necessarily it wasn't necessarily a class thing per se, but times when if there's a one-on-one meeting, we converse and maybe in lunch, or there's a period of time in class wherein they finish a task and we might just end up just discuss what's going on with inflation, all that stuff. So that's been good. The low is just really seeing the struggles in the education sphere with students who may not be able to achieve achieve certain things in class, or the support that's needed but not apparent, especially for some teachers. We go hard, but sometimes just disappointing when we might contact a parent about a child's behavior or just work ethic, and it sometimes feel like that there's no immediate um, uh, realization of the difficulties, right? What consequences, and really just making sure that the consequences are given so the child can come and really put their head to the lesson. So that's been the low. Seen this every year. I mean, what's up with that?
You
So
know, you touched on a few very nice, important things that, right? When you talk about financial literacy, when you talk about looking at the future, those things are important, right? Those things are very, 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 very important that we need to look at and understand what is happening around us and with our kids. You're in a blessed position where your effect on our community is um, your effect on our community is one that will continue, right? So you always have to present those things, and one of the just creating what needs to happen.
Yeah.
That's important, so, and that was that. There are a lot of things happening actually around us,
Mm.
you
Wait,
know.
so you have highs and lows. What about your highs and lows? Before we get
I
to
mean,
that.
I really didn't think about it from the academics perspective. I'm always concerned that our community, our black, especially our students of color, which is our primary audience,
Hmm.
they're not excelling at the level, always constantly not excelling at the level
Do
that
you?
we would like them to exceed, and that in itself creates some issues. Hi, Jalen, how you doing? Pleasure, and also
Oh,
welcome to
Jalen.
everybody who's joining us on the village, right? So, so
So, well, I was gonna say like, why you think that is? And I mean, and we spoke about these things a lot before as to why they might not be excelling, and I would say like policies and advocates spoken, things been put in place, um, but it's a wonder because I mean I'm teaching for what 7 years now, 7 plus, and I've been going to school since like early 2000 here, and I see the same things from then and seeing it now still, and it's a wonder, right? It's a wonder as to what, like why is things seemingly the same.
yeah, good question. Good question. I don't know if anybody out there who's listening. I see that some people have joined us, and if they have any comments about what is happening, you know, you know,
So if anybody want to comment and share your thoughts.
the calling number 718-841
Yeah.
9980. Please free to call in. Also, while we at it, Andre, just want to make sure that people understand that today is very interesting. And I just want to make sure that, we have a couple of people coming on. They'll be here shortly to clear up some of your concerns and questions. Um,
The
you know,
media's favorite friend, right?
you know, sorry, just as people have texted me while we're talking about what's going on, it's also
Yeah.
important.
You gotta pay attention
Um,
to us up here, man.
that I'm paying attention to everything that's happening as well. So very quickly, there are a couple of very, I want to lead off with the negative, right?
By the end of
So
the show, we're in the positive territory then.
yes, that's I want to finish positive with our Father's Day, right? Which is this weekend. Um, that another murder has happened on the train, and um, a 20-year-old killed a 28-year-old because the person slapped, punched, hit his girlfriend, and then he defended her, and then the two people got into a fight, and right, two people got into a fight, and one person, the 28-year-old, lost his life, right,
See too many times, man. See
and
something like that too many times.
so the the situation, you know, it lends to a couple of things, which both things are annoying, right? It lends to a couple of things that are annoying. One, when Dr. Bryant, um, who refuses to say that she is afraid to go on the subway, right? Because she refuses to go on the subway
Mm.
because she's afraid. She don't want to say it. She's like, "Oh, I don't have to drive. I don't have to take the subway. I could just drive. Blah 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 blah. But she doesn't take the subway. She's not sending her kids in the subway because of certain things like fear, right? And when you really think
Stop
about it,
Empress.
right? When you really think about it, um, when you see somebody getting killed,
Hmm.
when you see you're on the train minding your own business and somebody's attacking you, right? Somebody's literally attacking you on the train. It creates fear, right? It creates real issue. Am I next? Who's next? Am I the one that's going to be next on the attack? John, welcome to the show. Oh, by the way, just for the record, John,
Dr. Bryant, happy birthday.
she's not here yet.
Set the mic good so we can see John face.
Oh, my mic, yeah. So I think you need to put the mic down. Sorry, Doctor. Mic's too loud. Right.
It was good, John.
So it's a real thing to think about what is happening within our community,
Hmm.
our public safety, our subways. These things are getting highlighted worldwide, right? They're getting highlighted nationwide, statewide, and citywide. Why is this comment? Why I started at the global level? People come to New York. Tourism in any country is part of their budget. No matter some countries like Jamaica, Trinidad, the Caribbean in general, Italy, tourism is very high on. Where did I go last year with the wife for the anniversary? Where did I go? The Middle East. What's the country? Dubai. A lot of these countries look at tourism as a significant part of their revenue. And so when we highlight 2 murders on the train, this one seems to be even more justifiable. I don't know the response. I don't know the background, right? I know what the news has reported.
Which one are you talking about now?
The 20-year-old who killed the 29-year-old.
Yeah.
Right, because he slapped his girlfriend. Apparently, he was also
He
aggravated.
didn't slap his girl, he punched her.
He punched her, and he was also harassing other people on the train as well. So it became a safety issue, right? You're going to lose economically, right? You're going to lose economically in the United States, in New York. Many of the people who would want to come.
Right.
So I think right now in my state, I don't even want to go on the train because too many negative things are happening. So we have to look at that. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I agree. When there's more negativity or just
Andre, I love your home, man. When did you get it?
I was telling them the same thing.
appreciate it, man. Been trying very hard, So
Yeah,
I have to be content.
but I was saying that he's living with Dr. Bryant because they have the same. You notice they have the same background.
Very similar, but we don't live
same
together.
apartment.
Don't start that. Don't start that.
Yeah, no, right? Don't start it again, right?
Don't start that.
The only difference is right on Andre's over his right shoulder, right? There's a little white spot that keeps coming out. So he has a what do you call that light with the light that flickers the
Flicker light. Let's call it flicker light.
The flicker light. So he has a flicker light difference. So you know it's not the same place. So you do know that.
Right.
Yeah, John,
So-
I think you have to move forward because
So
I
going
think
back to the
as far as it goes.
point, I definitely think that's
Forward, they don't see it.
I definitely think that's the case when there's a lot of negativity highlighted. It's what stands out to people, right? If we take, for instance, even back home, or just what's happening around the world, a lot of violence, right? I remember when I was in my teens,
Hey,
going to
you
this
know what? Look what happened in Denver today. Look what happened in
Denver?
Denver today.
You said Denver?
Yeah, Denver, Colorado. What happened in Denver?
Yeah, I didn't hear that.
You, John? John,
What?
what happened in Denver today?
Oh, what happened in Denver today? Two individuals got shot after the parade for the Denver Nuggets.
A shot and killed?
Now, we don't know the status of them. We just know they were shot.
Yeah, you know, America is becoming a dangerous place. It's a dangerous place.
It's
That's what
just I, I,
Dr. Indigo Blue Black said. Conflict resolution needs to be taught. Security needs to be stepped up. Maybe random gun checks in the subway, safety first. Well, for
but
one, yeah,
well,
yeah,
I mean, I can agree with that itself, right? But what I was saying is that when it's highlighted, it definitely heightens people's insecurity or just concerns about what's going on. And I think if we also want to show that a particular place can be okay with the security checks and all that, but what's happening that's good in those areas, right? Like there's places around the world, you might say, this place might be violent, we don't want to necessarily go there. Case in point, we talk about the family vacation. A lot of people don't want to go to certain places that we mentioned because of violence, but also like acknowledging that, but also talking about things that's good in a particular place may give people some more hope. It may even push them to really want to try and
but
say, let's fix this. Let's fix this with more urgency.
I
So
think I think that some of the things that are happening, I think people are more when they are more. Maybe we need to close the door. Hold on. Maybe we need to close the door, John, to keep it cool for a minute. All right.
would the random gun checks in the
The run,
subways be
well,
good though?
random gun checks are good, but then you're gonna go on. You are violating somebody's
Profiling
civil rights because then
or
you're
the
gonna go back to stop and frisk.
yeah,
What?
that's what I
What?
was about to say.
Right. So you can't win, right? People want safety, but they don't want this.
People want absolute safety. They want absolute safety. They don't want to give any of their freedoms away. They want to be absolute protection, but they don't want to give any of their safeties away.
Exactly.
Any of their rights away, which I
Yeah,
can understand.
double-edged sword.
It's a double-edged sword. It's just like you talk about defunding the police, but you'll be the first one to call the police to ask for their assistance.
That is so
when the
true.
situation goes awry.
That is so true.
So it's man, we just need to be reasonable.
What's the middle
But
ground?
we're not. Right? We're not. We're just not reasonable. Right? It's always like
We are not reasonable because we are a very selfish society. It's all
and
about
we're
us.
spoiled. We're also spoiled. We're also spoiled.
selfish. We're spoiled.
Yeah.
And we are not our brothers and sisters keepers.
No, we're not.
The way they should be, with the way they used to be. Because growing up, when I was growing up, it was the neighbors. If my parent was home, there was a next door neighbor who made sure we were in line. There was nothing about disrespect. But the problem is a generational problem because now you have children having children. They're not minding their children. Other people are minding their children. They're growing up without any rules. They're growing up without any fathers or mothers. It's a whole societal issue that has to come to the forefront of we have to be able to police ourselves. That's what it is. But we tend to want. I tell them this. We want freedoms. We don't want no one to bother our kids. We don't want them to be corrected when they should be corrected. And I tell a lot of my friends this. I said, if you don't take the time out to correct your child at this point in time, you're going to lose control. And then it's going to be the correction officers who will have total control and they will have no freedom. So I believe in disciplining. I know villagers, but I believe in disciplining my child when it is warranted. Some people abuse it, and it should not be abused. But when warranted, our children need to be disciplined so they can understand that their behavior will not be accepted at all. They go out, they act up on the trains or the buses. It's just My father always said in America, it's too much freedom. Too
And,
much freedom,
but
but the
it's
kids
like,
can roam and they can do whatever they want. But there's no sense of stability, no sense of structure. But if they keep doing what they're doing, there will always be structure in the prison. Prison will make sure you receive the instruction that you need in order to maintain a level of discipline. You don't want to
So
get that.
one could presume that you're suggesting prison as a solution, which I don't believe you are. But what
No, I'm
would
not. I'm not
I know
suggesting.
I know I
I'm
know
not. I'm not suggesting prison as a solution. What I'm suggesting is the structure. Why do you think a lot of kids go to the military? They need
right
the structure and direction.
right
Our children need structure. If they are not getting the structure and the direction at home, where do you think they're going to get the instruction and direction?
yeah.
They're going to get it out in the streets. They're going to get it with the gangs. And the next thing you know, that instruction and direction that received out in the streets will lead them to a life of criminality.
So
And
what
uh,
I guess and as a teacher, I always look at what the impacts or the effects on my kids and my students and the structure that they may or may not be getting. What do you think? What or how do I put this? Thinking of how they come to school and they act out a certain way, but also may understand a parent might not be able to be there in the evenings, mornings, because they're working long hours to put food on the table or whatever it is that they need to do to make sure things are smooth, have a shelter and so on. Like how could we go about um helping that kid? I mean, I'm
I
thinking
think
of
the way Andre, the way we start helping,
mhm,
it's very. Let's go back to the basics.
mhm,
Everybody talks about it takes a village. It takes a village to
yeah.
raise a child, but it takes a child to raise the consciousness of the village, and that's what needs to be done. We need to raise that consciousness of the village to understand that we too are an integral part in the growth and the development of the children in our communities. We need to
Mhm,
provide them every opportunity and give them the support that they need. Maybe mama and dad they can't be there, but you know what? Reverend Jones at the corner who has the church could be there. Mr. Sam or Ahmed who owns the corner store can be there to make sure that our children are directed in a positive path, not a negative path. If they see them involved in something negative or involved with the wrong account, you know what? I'm going to tell your father tonight. I'll tell your mother when they come home. This is what I observed. This is what we need to do. This is how we used to do it when I was a child. Brought up over there in the Brownsville, East Flatbush, Canarsie section of Brooklyn. Our neighbors were responsible for my growth and development. They had an interest. They had a buy-in. They had a buy-in to see the kids on the block succeed. We don't have that anymore because everybody's concerned. Take for instance, on my block, two houses down from where I live, you got one homeowner who bought the home, don't even live in New York, rents their backyards out to people to have events and parties, sometimes at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. That's disrespectful. And I'm not talking about on a Saturday night, sometimes it's a Thursday night, a Friday night. People have to go to work. There's common courtesy and decency that no longer exists. And if you talk to a neighbor wrong, next thing you know, you're getting in the fisticuffs. Next thing you know, you can wind up being assaulted, or you assaulting them. Somebody's dead. Look at the incident. I think it was in Queens, where the husband and wife had an ongoing dispute with one of their neighbors regarding parking his vehicle. Next thing you know, they were outside in fisticuffs, beating the guy down. And one of the most traumatic situations was, I don't know, I think it was in Philadelphia, where it was a couple who was badgering this man, I think with snow removal, parking, whatever it is, to the point this man went inside his home, took out a gun, came back to the street. The husband said, "What do you do? What do you do?" Shot the husband dead. The wife proceeded to run. He shot the woman, and then while the woman was on the ground, he stood over the woman and shot her again. All over a neighborhood, a neighborly issue that could have been resolved more amicably. This is what I'm talking about.
You know, Empress Penny, I put up there. Fathers need to step up and be a father.
Mhm.
Fathers are not doing their job. They are failing.
But brothers, but there's some fathers are not there for many different reasons. Some are incarcerated, some have passed away, some just are totally not involved at all with their children. And fathers have to step up. But Empress, if the fathers don't step up, the men in the neighborhood needs to step up and be a father to those fatherless children in our communities. You know, you have the sororities, you have the fraternities. It's, you know, we need to have what we call a community fraternity and sorority, that those men and women on those neighborhoods, they take care of those children who don't have maybe a mother, who don't have a father, who don't have both. We all got to step up. It's our responsibility to be for us to be able to take care of the next generation. That's just my point of view. So let's talk about my man Trump. What's up?
But I don't want to get to Trump yet.
Okay.
The reason why I don't want to get that because both were guests. That's a major part of their conversation. So I don't want to. I want to maybe lead into that. Does that make sense?
No, I yeah. Oh, so
What about
what about
Sewell?
what about Sewell, the police
Yeah,
commissioner?
Sewell, the police commissioner.
What about the police commissioner? You know what?
I have my.
What's your
I have my opinion,
opinion?
but I'm not going to give it. I think. Well, I might give it later.
Well, you gotta give it later. Why can't you give it now?
No, because to those of you who know Keyshawn Sewell, who was the first woman
Ever to be police commissioner.
to be police commissioner, was who was there for about a year and a half, stepped down from being there after 17 months, being the police commissioner. Actually, not even a full year. She'll step down as of June 30th of this year.
Mhm.
And, you know, there are conjectures about why she stepped down. All right.
And what's conjecture? Say what it is, man. Not conjecture.
Well, they are. I mean, they're nothing. And then on the flip side, you know, Eric Adams' office. Then you have the rumors, right? And you know what I was telling somebody, and I want to talk about another person at the same time. And this is going to go for both stories. I'm going to talk about back to back. I watched the movie, the Netflix, and if you haven't seen it, I didn't ask to endorse it, but I'm going to endorse it, right? Which is that I agree, Jalen. They absolutely need to stop the violence, and the police commissioner just stepped down, which, you know, there have been some improvement, maybe, depending on how you look at it. So I watched the show, Bridgerton.
I hear you, Mo.
Right? And in the show, Bridgerton, the Queen Charlotte,
Right.
talks about the maid's talk. Right? That means that you and I, who are the heads, we shut up and we have a gag order. But the lowly soul who doesn't have the gag order is going to speak. And even if they have the gag order, they're so low on the totem pole, they're like, let me tell you something because I need to make extra value. So I believe that what we're hearing, and from Mayor Adams' office, what we hear from Commissioner Sewell's people are all the same, which is Phil Banks. She was a puppet and she didn't want to be a puppet. That's why she's leaving. On the flip side, they're like on the Eric Adams side, Mayor Adams side, she's not a team player. Which
I didn't see it. Project,
yeah.
I believe Robert is here.
Yeah. Did you
Oh,
contact Kareem because I kind of want them together?
we hear wondering, but I can't see him on mine. I'm like, where the guy? So he's here. Okay.
I don't see him either, so I can't bring him into the studio. I don't see him.
Do you have full screen?
Yes, I don't see him.
All right, so exit full screen.
No, I'm not on full screen. I'm on regular screen. I don't see him. It's only you,
Okay.
Sophia, and us.
All right, okay.
All right, so I don't see him at all. Right. So the reality of the situation is, they say that she didn't want to be a cop. It was Phil Banks that runs the Department of Public Safety. So why does she need to be there? On the other side, Mayor Adams' office saying that she's not a team player. You know, she wanted to do things and blah blah blah. So when I'm hearing both of those, they kind of actually sound alike. Like she wanted to run the department. They're like, this is what we want done.
I tell you this. I'm just giving you. It's not that I have inside information or anything. My point is this: I'm the mayor of New York City, and at the end of the day, I'm responsible for the crime in New York City. You're daggone right.
He's the one that's going to get elected.
Exactly. I'm the one that has to be elected. I'm the one that's going to be responsible to the people. It's not the police commission. It's not the deputy mayor. It's me. I'm the one that has 150% responsibility. And excuse the expression, villagers, you're damn right. I want to know exactly what's going on in my police department, because when it's going positive, everybody wants to benefit. When it's going left, I'm the one that has the full brunt of the impact of what's going on.
I got to interrupt you. Wait, I got to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Birthday girl.
Yeah.
The birthday girl.
I know. I'm going to intertwine.
Oh, okay, got you.
I'm going to intertwine that. And that's why, and I think Dr. Bryant would agree with me, especially when we're celebrating her 25th birthday, is that, when something is difficult and tough,
mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that you back away and resign.
Hmm.
You know what? You see what the playing field is. It's just like you go into the game. You see what the playing field. They have a different defense on the field. You're the quarterback. Okay, I'm going in halftime. I'm going to figure out how I can get through that defense and be able to score. Put your time in. If you felt that was the issue, regarding being micromanaged, whatever it is like that, you sit down, and I don't know, you've probably done it before, whatever, you sit down with the mayor, you sit down with everybody, says, hey, I'm a team player like everybody else, but let's establish some ground rules. So I understand you're responsible, you're going to get the brunt of this, but I need a level to operate, I know the mayor personally. One thing I can say about the mayor, he's always open-minded. He's not a closed-minded guy. He's open-minded. You show him a solution to a problem, or you can give him pushback to say, okay, I'll consider whatever it is. And that's what it is. It's the whole point was, if you don't get it your way, does not mean that I got to go ahead and resign. I'm not going to resign in 18 months. This is like growing pains like anything else. It is politics. In the police department, it's politics. In every city agency, it's politics. You got to figure out a way how to get around the politics, embrace it, and then once you learn it, then you create a way to get around it. So my whole point was, I wish he didn't just say, after 18 months, I'm going to resign, because I'm concerned about the Deputy Mayor Banks being involved. You know what? You sit down with the mayor respects people who come to him, who are straightforward. He's an open-minded mayor. Come to him, you show him, hey, this is what's going on. I need more. I need to be able to do certain things or whatever it is. This is my issue. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. To me, I don't easily fold like that. If I face those obstacles, yeah, I'm just going to get in. I'm going to put my head down, and let the results speak for themselves. I continue to be the police commissioner. The crime's going down. Who do you think is going to get the credit? The mayor's going to get the credit, but I'm going to get the credit too, because I'm the one who's leading those men and women out there in the street who are doing what they need to do. But that's just my point of view. And Dr. Brown, once again, happy and healthy and gracious birthday to you.
So I have a question before I go on to what you're saying, because I somewhat agree with
Thank you.
a lot of what you're saying. Because it's funny, because I came off a conversation today as the chair of the board, community board, that's similar, and I made a decision about something. And actually, I'll talk about it on here, but and see if I'm wrong. And if I'm wrong, I'll go back. I just have a personal question, right? It's your birthday, happy birthday. When John said, as a mature woman, right? Wait, no. It's a question, and it's her opinion I'm asking, because it's about her, not about in general. When John says happy 25th birthday, what do you look at that as? Do you look at it as a compliment? Do you look at it as like, what do you look at it as?
Well, first of all, thank you, listeners. Thank you all for the well wishes. Thank you so very much for taking time out to acknowledge my birthday. I don't take it as a negative thing. Thank you for the compliment, John. Because I'm far from 25. 25 was great, but a little older is even better. So I take it as a compliment.
You know, I know some people like, oh, 25, blah, 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 blah. And then some people are like, oh, because they're afraid of getting older. So like when you tell them they're 25, it makes it feel good. By the way, just for the record, it's your birthday today, but we're not going to be on here. Somebody next to me, to my left.
Yes,
Right, he has a birthday on Saturday.
my fellow Gemini. Yes.
Your fellow Gemini,
Really?
Dr. John L. Sampson
Yeah.
will be having a birthday.
Yes, I will.
On Saturday, June 17th, close enough to Juneteenth, right? Both of you close enough to Juneteenth. So happy birthday to you, John, as well. And, you know, obviously, I think next week, sometimes, I think maybe after the show next week, we're going to be celebrating John and Dr. Barnes' birthday on the 22nd. We're going to, because both of them moved past their dates. And so after the show, we're going to go hang out. If you want to hang out, just text me privately and come say happy birthday to John and Joanne, and whoever comes, they're gonna pay for dinner, right? Make sense? Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
All right, makes sense. We would come and celebrate John's birthday. I might go to. Well, we'll talk about it off the air and see what you guys could do. But celebrate you guys' birthday, so this is great. So the other point that I want to ask.
I think so.
Well, and let me tell you what the situation is.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked that something be done at the board level, right? And the reason why I want it done at the board level is because I strongly believe, my goal, a lot of people don't know the power of the community board. I don't know if you came across that when you were in the Senate. And I don't know if you come across that now, whether or not you utilize the community board, but they don't recognize the power of the community board.
So you have power.
And we have power.
Mm-hmm.
So what I ask for is recognition. So I say that when you go out, whatever role you have on the community board, people should know that. So when I send out something, they should know your role on the community board. One person feels like it's an ego trip. And I'm like, but it's not an ego. It's not about, I'm not running for office. You're not running for office. But if somebody has a question, they know who to look at. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're not looking at blank ear. Right? And I'm saying, because going back to Eric Adams, it's like, it's not about me, but it is me that people are going to say, while he was the chair, while he was the mayor, these things didn't get done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right? So they're not going to, because I can appoint a chair or remove a chair, add a chair, and I can do that, because that's within my power. Right. But it's still, this is the board. I'm responsible. It's like, you know, if a government who sets up their own government can't function, you're the one who put the people in place.
100%.
You know, and so I was just thinking about that. And I think that's a good point, right? So Sewell and anybody else who comes along need to know how to play their role. Because you are going to get all of the credit.
Thank you, Dr.
Right?
Girl.
right? You're going to get all of the credit when something goes right. Under Commissioner Sewell's
Leader.
position,
Mm-hmm.
the safety increased.
Mm-hmm.
Your name is going to be highlighted, and it's going to make you go to the next level.
Of course.
If you screw up, why did Mayor Adams put you like he's getting a lot of backlash
About her.
about the decisions that he has made about the migrants?
Mm.
He like I'm in different groups, and people know that he's somebody who I supported when he was running for mayor, because I made it clear
Mm-hmm.
I'm supporting him for mayor. You know how many people are calling me?
Let them call.
No, I'm not saying no. No. Hold on.
Let me get started.
No, wait. John, I'm not saying that they don't have the right to their opinion. The point that I'm making is the backlash from so many people on the negative level. It's him. They're not even talking about the person that he put on immigrant services, who is supposed to look towards making the right decisions.
Mm-hmm.
It reflects on him,
Absolutely.
right? And so I that's the point I'm trying to say when you talk about community. Not that people don't, they should or should not, or whatever the case is.
So what was your thought about the commissioner resigning? What was your thought on that?
My thought was that I agree with John. I don't think she should have stepped down. I think she should. Yeah, that's person who cannot follow. One of the things that when any of us are interviewing somebody for a job, one of the questions that we ask is, how well are you able to play in the sandbox? Right? Do you want your own sandbox, or you're going to play with everybody else? Teamwork. Right? So maybe if she can't do teamwork, maybe it's the best thing that she's done.
I don't know about that. I don't think it's teamwork.
Okay.
Because in order for you to lead a whole department, you have to play with different teams.
No, but okay, you missed that part of the conversation. So her reason, according to the news,
But she didn't say anything.
It doesn't matter what she says.
You didn't give a reason.
That's what I was saying. You missed the point about the Bridgerton story, about the Netflix TV show Bridgerton. You missed that point, right? Which is, I'm endorsing that show, by the way. I think it's a great show for us to watch.
I'm glad you finally.
As long as let's be clear, it has a little rated R. So if you're not into, if you are a little
up to 1, 2, or 3.
I've seen all of them.
Okay.
I've seen every single one.
So let's get back to
what they say in the show is that the maids let loose of the story. Right? So what people want leaked out, that's what's getting leaked out.
Okay.
So therefore, what they're saying about her and Phil Banks, it's true. People might have worded it how they want to word it, but there's an issue there. You get what I'm saying? The other thing that from the mayor's office, that she's making the mayor look bad.
Well, here's the thing: he never knew that there was issues,
and that she was, because apparently according to the article,
I think the mayor.
Yeah, because she said she was thinking about resigning since March.
The mayor, I think, of course, I think the mayor knew that maybe she was disgruntled
and unhappy. Yes,
unhappy. But I think that the mayor's approachable and he's open-minded. If you have a problem, if you want to move people or whatever it is, remember the commissioner's coming from a small. She was chief of the detectives in Nassau County. Which consisted of about 2,500 cops. You go from 2,500 cops to managing almost 40,000. There's a political and the dynamic that goes on, and based upon you talk about Deputy Mayor Banks, you talk about the mayor, you talk about Tim Pearson. Pretty much they knew a lot of the rank and file, or aware of the rank and file. So at times there's a lot of politics, unfortunately, going on and moving people in different positions, whatever it is. So sometimes you need to know the full lay of the land. And I don't know if the commissioner knew the full lay of the land politically, the internal politics of the police department. At that point in time, if you don't know it, you lean on a Deputy Mayor Banks, you lean on a Pearson to educate me, to teach me about that. Sometimes, of course, this is an overview. Somebody might say this is an old boys network, but there's a lot of women who have broken
Repeat
glass.
what you just said again.
Sometimes, as they say, this is an old boys network,
Mm-hmm.
but there are a lot of women who have
Hear
broken.
that?
But there is a lot of women who have broken the glass ceiling.
Yes, she did. But here's the thing. I look at it like this. If you put somebody in charge of a department in front of 40,000
Right,
that reports to her
that's
and
it.
communicate directly.
Right,
To have a middle person is a problem because it sends the message that you don't fully trust their opinion. So you handpick this individual, but then you don't fully trust. It sends different
but trust is earned. Trust is earned. That puts you in a position
yeah,
because
but guess what?
at the end of the day,
No, if
who's
he wanted somebody
responsible? Who's
else,
responsible,
no,
Dr. Brown? Who's
here's the thing.
responsible?
She's in charge of the police department, right?
Right, right.
So if he picked her, let her direct. Why has somebody
Direct.
else?
Okay,
Is my
so wait, hold on.
and he didn't fully
She
trust
does direct.
her? Yeah,
However,
but have
Phil Banks is in charge of public safety. And public safety encompasses more than the police department, right? It encompasses the police department.
it was something interesting that they mentioned that never had they had a middle person before between the mayor and the police commissioner. They
There's
used to
always a
But,
deputy mayor
but
of
there's
public
always a
safety.
deputy mayor of public safety.
There's been a deputy mayor of public safety, yes.
Always. Maybe the person who's deputy mayor of public safety might have
Maybe
been
that person was not hands-on.
right. Or the person might say, like, for example, all five of us are part of the village, right?
Right.
And we're all, I look at all, I view all of us,
management styles.
right? All of us have value to our show, right? So when we talk about education, I acquiesce to you, right? A lot, right? Because that's your strong point, right? And feminist issue. That's your strong point. Haiti, that's your strong point. So I'm going to acquiesce to you, right? Those three things. And when I talk about politics, I'm going to look to John.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to community activism, I'm going to look to me, even though John does have some, as a former senator, he knows that. But just like in this conversation, right? So you acquiesce to somebody's role. And in this case, Phil Banks might want to have an active role in every component.
What
That's his leadership style, like John is saying.
you know what? I feel if she had to walk away to say, hey, because this job is not easy, being a police commissioner, you're on call all the time. And if you have to walk away to say, hey, you know what? I need my sanity, my sense of peace,
Here we go with the
At a point-
crap again.
walk away.
So then you know what, Doc? If that's
Oh,
the case, then you know what? Then stop the rumors going around saying that's why I'm walking away for peace of mind,
Maybe.
mental health, and stress.
Listen.
Instead of you hearing like this and that, but you know it is what it is. But we got our guest here.
Now come out.
We got our guest here to talk about one of my favorite topics: the weaponization of the federal government to go after individuals who do not conform to what the government
And that's
wants you to conform to. I'm talking about the feds, I'm talking about the CIA, those governmental agencies that are nothing but they're worse than organized crime. So my good friend Robert Lustig, Mr. Lustig, how are you, sir?
that's not even what I'm.
Okay.
Are you muted?
You're muted, Bob. You're muted. I can't hear him. You can't hear
You're
him.
still muted. Did you click on your auto? Because you'll make sure that on your auto data when you come on, you click on your
Keep
auto.
glasses on, Bob.
Yeah, put on your eyes, man, so you can see. Put your eyes on so you can
How am I doing now?
Yeah, we
There
hear
you
you,
go.
sir.
All right, sorry guys.
How are
Alright.
you?
So welcome. Just
Welcome back, Bob. Welcome back.
It's great to be back.
I was trying to tell Andre that you've been on the show before. This is your second time being on the show, but he's like, no. I'm like, yes, it is. It's the second time, but I don't remember when we brought him back on before. Somebody on the national level.
Right.
So give us a little bit about your background first.
Okay.
And also make sure while you're throwing that in there, make sure you say happy birthday to John and Joanne. Not to
Oh,
Brian.
happy birthday.
Yeah, make sure you throw that in there to both of them.
Oh, this
Today's
is
Joanne's and
weekend,
Saturday
John.
is John.
You got your birthday, you got Father's Day, and
Yeah.
Juneteenth.
That's right. That's right.
So that's great. Bro.
Trifecta, baby. Trifecta.
Yeah, it doesn't get better than that.
Yeah. Introduce
Okay,
yourself,
so for the audience, I am a 25-year veteran, retired from the FBI, and I worked a lot with another government agency as well towards the end of my career. I was indicted and arrested and sentenced to 15 years for obstruction of justice regarding a case that came up where I had an informant who was a pretty well-known guy named Michael Taylor. And he was indicted on a 72-count indictment. And I was doing my job in manipulating him to keep him open as a source because the information that he was providing was on terrorism and it was great stuff. At least 60 FBI supervisors approved it for dissemination to agencies all over the world. And ironically, Taylor flipped on me and said that he had offered me a job after I retired, but I could only get it if he wasn't going to prison. So he made it look like it was a quid pro quo kind of situation, which it wasn't. I was doing my job, but they went after me instead of him, and they crushed me.
Yeah.
But just get a little further than that. They crushed you, but the government had exculpatory evidence, but they refused to turn it over. And you can tell them why they refused to turn it over.
Well, interestingly enough, just like what's going on right now in the press regarding a thing called a CIPA hearing, the government did not want certain things coming out in my case because of some of the cases that I had worked as an agent that were, questionable as far as stepping over the line regarding rules and regulations. And at the time, they ordered me to do it. But when push came to shove, they didn't want it coming out because it was going to make all the higher ups look bad. So what they did was they squashed me and they wouldn't let me talk about my career as my defense. And I lost my CIPA hearing. And we could get into that, how it deals with Donald Trump and some thoughts on that if you guys want to. But, basically the judge ruled on a Thursday. I was at my CIPA hearing, and the judge asked the government, the prosecution, well, it looks like I'm going to let Mr. Lustig talk about his career. What are you going to do if I allow that? And they said that they were going to drop all the charges. So the judge said, okay, I'm going to come in Monday and I'm going to make a ruling. And sure enough, she came in on Monday and she ruled that basically everything in my head was property of the United States government and I wasn't allowed to discuss it. And there went my defense.
Wow.
And villagers, the reason I say that, and I asked Mr. Lustig to get into that issue, because, the situation with the former President Trump and the documents that he did not turn over after he was requested to turn over to the archives. And and we hear the constant Republican talking points about the weaponization of the federal government. And in this one instance, Mr. Lustig, is similar to your situation, the way they weaponize the federal government against you to prevent you from talking about information within your head that can lead to you being exonerated of the charges. And it comes to the point that the government does not want to know what the truth is. They only want to know what they believe the truth to be.
Well, that's a great point, and I think it's even more important to say that most of the time in the intelligence and the counterintelligence world, the government knows the truth, but they don't want the public to know. And, you know, interestingly enough, if you look at the Trump case,
You don't need to put on.
it's going to come down to
I just
a CEPA hearing, and how that will go, you know, is going to be how the case goes. You know, everyone thinks that Jack Smith has a great solid case with this, you know, 40-page indictment that, you know, looks so crisp, and I actually, you know, personally believe that they do have a good case. However, if people don't know how classified information is handled in court, they don't really have an idea as to what could possibly happen. And if you take my case and flip it upside down, it's kind of like the Trump case. If I was Trump's attorney, what I would do is I would argue to try to get those documents admissible into court. And that kind of defense, John, you probably remember, is called gray mail. When you have a top secret clearance and you try to get documents into court, you have to go through this CIPA, Confidential Information Procedural Act. Every lawyer has to get their clearance up to top secret. Anybody in that courtroom has to get clearance up to top secret. That took, in my case, that took a year and a half, and a lot of the people didn't get it. My private investigator didn't get it. So then, after people get their clearance, which Donald Trump will not have, Donald Trump will not be allowed to see the documents that he had in his hand ever again. It's not discoverable to him. They'll talk about it ex parte with the judge, but Trump will never be allowed in there. That's what happened with me. My lawyer and I had a miscommunication because I gave him specific cases that I wanted brought into the trial, into the courtroom, and he didn't understand the process of what goes into classified information and how it has to be handled. And because of that, he kind of fought. He didn't fight the right way. He didn't use the right direction. And, you know, inevitably I lost the CIPA hearing, and there went my defense. What I think possibly could happen in the Trump case is, even though they have him dead to rights on the obstruction issue, because, John, as you know, they went to him and they said, hey, look, here's your last chance. Are these all the documents? And he said, yeah, this is it. This is everything. And signed an affidavit saying such. And then when they did the search, which was based on confidential information from an informant they had on the inside saying, there's more documents. And the FBI did the search and they came up with all those documents. And then they found out that he had hidden them. There's the obstruction. There's the issue that he's not going to be able to get away from. However, when the judge turns to the government and says, what are you going to do when I let Donald Trump bring these top secret documents into the court hearing because he feels like he declassified them, and that's his argument, so therefore we want to see those documents, what exactly will you do? And I guarantee, based on the information in those documents, the government will drop the case.
All right, so I want to introduce defense attorney Kareem Vessa, Esquire, but he has some legal background in also prosecutory. Well, let me not say that. Let me let him introduce himself, and so he can tell you his background. And so as we going to have the conversation about what might or might not happen to Donald Trump. Does the Fed have a case? Is this an issue of railroading? Is this the issue of legitimacy? What's going on? Kareem, that's right. I like to call all lawyers doctors, although they don't like the name. But a lot of people don't know that lawyers are doctors too. So they have to.
Good evening, Village. How's everybody doing?
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Dr. Bryant.
Thank
And
you.
by the way, it's John's birthday too. So
Is it John's birthday as well? I didn't know that.
I'm
Happy
sorry.
birthday. Happy birthday, my brother.
Both Geminis killing me in the studio. Both of these Geminis.
So obviously, we've all been
Tell us
captivated.
who you are first.
Okay. So I'm Kareem Vesip. My primary practice area at this point is civil rights. I started my career doing criminal defense work within the 5 boroughs. I'm admitted to practice not only in New York State courts, but also in the Southern and Eastern District courts, local federal courts here in New York City. My practice spans approximately 20 years now. I represent individuals typically when they've been the victims of constitutional violations at the hands of police conduct, or I say police misconduct typically. There's a natural intersection between my work, which is civil in nature, and also criminal work, because many of the matters that I'm involved with involve law enforcement at multiple levels, corrections officers, police officers, federal agents, and the like. So there's a natural intersection between the work that I do on the civil end and criminal law. I've had an ancillary criminal practice for approximately 18
Aren't you
years.
a professor too, or something like that? Professor of law?
Yes, I've taught as a professor at St. John's. I've taught as a professor at St. John's University, St. John's School of Law, and Pace Law School, particularly in the areas of trial advocacy, legal ethics, torts, a number of different areas, but predominantly in the area of trial practice. I am a trial lawyer, so I spend a lot of time in the courtroom cases. So that's how my bread is buttered, for lack of a better term.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
So
no
Bob, who's a former FBI agent, spent some time in jail. Might have needed you 15 years ago.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, it's John's fault. Actually, no, it's Dr. Brian's fault.
It's John's fault.
No, it's Dr. Brian's fault. It's Dr. Brian's fault.
Oh,
That's terrible.
She didn't introduce us to Kareem prior to you going to jail. That's her fault. So, he was a former FBI agent. We're talking about what's going on with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about it. I'm talking about it from the legalese perspective. What is the likelihood? Like that's what people want to know. Like, so he's here on 34 counts in New York City. He has 37 counts in Florida, right? In Miami courts, and with more to come, right? With more to come in Georgia. Bob can talk to us about how the federal courts might want to put not how the FBI can put their case together, and what would Trump need to do and say, look at and ask questions, right? Because you went through that. You as a defense attorney, right? You as a defense attorney can have that conversation, right? About what does Trump need to do to get himself off, right? From the legal answer. So I guess we'll start with you. From your perspective, are all of these charges, which one of these, I don't know them all. I don't know if you've seen them, can say which one of these is really, you know how many years ago the police pulled me over and they gave me a ticket. And then they tagged on all of these BS charges. What's it called? Resisting arrest, disorderly conduct, right? And they tagged on all of these charges. So when I went to court, they said, what the hell is this? And just threw it out. Do you know which one of these charges are, what the hell is this? Let's just throw it out. And then which one of these, would get him? I mean, we were having a conversation today as well. And
To make a long story short, Kareem, if you were the defense counsel for the Trump, for the former president, how would you proceed in representing him? You know, I'm talking about the Florida case. I'm not talking about the New York case.
Okay, so I will tell you that the Espionage Act related charges are the ones that would scare me the most. Over the course of the last approximately 10 years, there have been a number of cases where individuals have been prosecuted under the Espionage Act from a number of different fact patterns. An individual, 22 years old, who happened to get a hand on a document that would constitute the nation's secrets and had them in their living room, sentenced to 5 years for violation of the Espionage Act. There's another case with an individual who had documents, I believe, in their shed, their backyard shed. They, I believe, were sentenced to approximately 9 years. To me, I think the Espionage Act is the matter that I think that I'd be most concerned with. The obstruction, I think, is the strongest case that the government has. However, I don't care what anybody says. The talking point of the law applies to everyone, and we are a nation of laws. No one is above the law. That's a lie and a misnomer. It's just not true. In almost every single criminal case, we consider the individual when we talk about what justice should look like in an individual case, right? If an individual is charged with robbery and wants to take a plea for a robbery-related offense, we look at the background of that individual. And if there's disparities in that person's background versus another person's background, we take those things into consideration, right? The question is the country really prepared to see a former president of the United States serving prison time for whatever the charge is? How does that look across the globe? Regardless of our feelings, I have no problem saying, I do think that no president in the history of our country has snubbed their nose in the ways that Donald Trump has to various rules and norms that we hold dear. I just personally believe that, but that's my personal feelings. I do think that as institutions go, there are a lot of people that would believe that putting a former president of the United States in prison is an incredible step that on the world stage has very serious implications. And I think that's something that people are going to think twice about before they look to do that. I do think a lot of that has to do with Donald Trump. I will tell you that the most difficult way to represent this particular client, the greatest difficulty in representing this client in Donald Trump is the fact that Donald Trump cannot seem to keep his mouth shut. Every time he gives a press conference or he gets in front of a mic, he says things that are often very damaging to his case. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. If I was his attorney, I would be having fits every time he talked about the Presidential Records Act. He shows a fundamental misunderstanding of the act. The Presidential Records Act does not give a president of the United States ownership or title to a single piece of paper that has to do with the workings of the federal government. It specificates in the Presidential Records Act that those very papers that he's referring to are the property of the United States government. They are not his personal property. But every single time he gets in front of a mic, he says the exact opposite. It completely contradicts the statute. So every single time he gets in front of a mic, he makes the defense case more difficult.
So let's go. Okay. So
Can I just make a point on that?
Yeah, go ahead, jump in.
Believe it or not, there are instances in history under the Presidential Records Act. They have a grace period where they allow. Oh, you guys there?
Yeah,
we're here.
I lost you guys.
No, we're here. We can hear you.
All right, I'm good. So they allow
I agree.
they allow a grace period, a time period where the president who's leaving office and is handing over everything to the incoming president is given some time to go through everything to make sure that all his personal information has been removed from anything that's classified. Now, the problem that Mr. Trump is going to run into is the people that removed the documents did not have courier status. For example, when my house was searched, I had a document in my safe, and it was in a locked up portfolio because I had courier status, and the day after the day that I was searched, I was going to do an interview up north. So I was allowed to bring the thing home with me that I was going to reference during the interview. The people that move the boxes, that's another issue. They're not supposed to move in boxes. They have to be in a locked pouch. It's a triple sealed pouch. It's like a specific format that you have to follow whenever you have a document that's top secret. So putting them in cardboard boxes, that's gonna be an issue. And the only argument that Trump is going to have, his lawyers are going to have, like Kareem said, every time Trump talks about the Presidential Records Act, he doesn't know what he's talking about. But ironically, there is this weird grace period that goes like above and beyond the law to accommodate, the issue of switching offices. So I don't know if the lawyers know that and they're smart enough to bring that into play. I only know it because, I ran into it when I was, a younger agent. We had someone, I'm not going to mention the name, but he was a very high level politician, and he was bringing stuff home and he was throwing it into his garbage. And a foreign intelligence service was doing a trash cover, and they were like recovering it. And, under the Espionage Act, that guy should have been, destroyed. However, it fell under this grace period, and he had switched offices, and they just, we cleaned the whole mess up and it went away. So, that's not to I think it leads credence to what Kareem was saying. And, I saw Kareem, you were shaking your head, yeah, when I was talking about the grace period. So, it's just unusual. These people get, these high ups, they even though they're going after them, and it's definitely looks like a political move also, I really feel that there is going to be this grace period that's going to come into play. It's going to confuse everyone.
Well,
Wait, hold on one second. I want to go back to something real fast before we miss it, right? Nicola Sturgeon was just indicted in Scotland. And as the highest ranking person in the United Kingdom region over there. And she might be spending some time herself with what's happened. They arrested her, took her out. Looking at world leaders and what has happened to a number of world leaders. Warren stated, I don't think he's going to be incarcerated. My question to you, to both of you, start with you, Kareem, first. Because of what's happened around the world to world leaders, don't you think maybe there is a push, even if he's not guilty or guilty, to push to make him guilty? Kareem.
To make him guilty, yes. For him to be incarcerated, no. I think there's a significant interest in seeing him accountable for something. But again, the powers that be in the United States are not, I don't think they're prepared to see a former president of the United States behind bars. I just don't believe that they're ready for that. I don't think that they're ready for what that means to China, what that means to Russia, what that means to other nations.
Bob?
I totally agree with Kareem, and I feel that to take it one step further regarding national security issues, to put our president in any kind of incarceration would show a weakness in national security. And I don't feel that agencies that I had worked for and worked with, like the CIA and maybe NSA and the NRO, these super secret places, they're not going to want, they're not going to want that weakness to be, worldwide, because then when they want to, China might then say, oh, hey, let's wrap up all the agency people that are over here that we know they're spying, but we just let them do it. Let's make them all persona non grata, because apparently the United States government doesn't have any more, oomph in their pants. So, it can really, like Kareem said, it can really hurt. It can hurt us internationally, not only on the political level or diplomatic level, but in the realm of intelligence and counterintelligence, it can be super damaging.
One of our audience person just texted me that it will bring this country down, right? And so that's one of the main problems. You mentioned a couple organizations just now, Bob. Can you tell us what their NRO, these different, what are they, and what are their roles?
Okay, so the NRO is the National Reconnaissance Organization, and without going into super detail, basically they're the organization that handles all these satellites that the National Security Agency uses to do various overhears.
Okay, and the FBI is national, CIA is international. I think because you're the expert here, you can tell us all these national, international organizations, because you mentioned some of them. That's why I was just asking to give a brief explanation real fast before we go to commercial about that. And then Dr. Bryant has the next question.
Oh, yeah, sure. So the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, is, specifically required to handle all intelligence matters that are outside the United States borders, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation handles the ones that are inside. However, that's, as John knows from all the stories all the conversations we've had, that's just a smoke screen.
Thank you. Doc, are we running the commercial, Andre? I see. I know we have a couple commercials to run, or we can move on to Dr. Bryant. Andre?
We said
Okay.
no.
So great. We're brought to you by Grace Family Services Adult Social Daycare. Please contact them at 646-504-5778 or 347-770-8446, 8447. They're open up for business for you to come out and ask some questions. Free meals, breakfast, lunch, beverages, and supper where applicable. Special events, barbecues, field trips, dancing, live DJ, birthdays, and anniversaries. So billiards, table tennis, dominoes, bingo, cards, board games, arts and crafts, salon services for ladies and gentlemen. Let's get a manicure and pedicure. Had you been around for Father's Day, you would have gotten some of that
I
stuff.
took care of that.
John took care of that already. So again, please call 646-504-5778, 347-770-8448, 347-770-8447. You can check out their website at gracefamilyasdcare.com or email them at gracefamilyadult@gmail.com. And the food is sponsored by Golden Cross, and they're under their Kiva Management Services. Free transportation, free Medicaid. Free transportation if you have Medicaid is accepted, and if you don't, they can help you with it. The program is free to everyone with Medicaid. Again, please contact them for more information. Dr. Bryant, you had a question.
I did. My question is, usually when people are charged with federal offenses, they remove their passport. Why was his passport not removed? Is it because he was a former president? Or, it seemed as already we're starting with different criteria for folks who are being charged with federal crimes?
That's a very good question.
It's impractical It's impractical under the circumstances. Remember, every former United States president has a Secret Service detail that's assigned to them and remains with them. They're constantly surrounded by federal agents. Any time that they travel, they're always advanced teams. A president cannot move around freely around the country, let alone around the world, without there being significant involvement of members of law enforcement, federal law enforcement officers. So it's impractical to ultimately take away his passport. It would really be perfunctory, and really it would be symbolic more than anything else. It really would serve no effect if they were to do it.
Following up with that question, what if, I mean, I'll be a conspiracy theorist on this program, and just to ask the question, hey, what if his team is in agreement and he takes the underground tunnel to leave the country if he sees a problem and he doesn't want to spend the time in jail?
He's not going to jail, listeners.
Well,
He is
wait,
not going to jail.
hold on.
That would be an absolute nightmare. How are you going to protect the former president of the United States of America in jail? He does not lose.
Wait, hold on, John. Hold on.
Protection.
Hold on, everybody on the air. We have a question. We have a comment, right?
Okay.
There is many people don't take New York City subway because they're afraid of what might happen on the subway. Not that it has ever happened to them, and the likelihood is slim to nothing at all.
Right.
But they're still afraid.
Right.
And so fear is the number one component that we're talking about. Logistically speaking, it probably won't. Al Capone was fearless. He committed murders, lawlessness, and what did he go to jail for? Tax evasion. Because he believed that nothing was going to happen. So if he's afraid that something might happen, I don't know. So then the question becomes, what would happen then? Or you're just holding to the fact that both of you are holding, all four of you are holding to the fact that he will not go to jail. So Byron also agreed that this is not happening.
Well, I mean, if he did go to jail, he's going to be in protective custody. I wouldn't be surprised if, because of the fact that he's a former president, and they have to worry about situations like kidnapping or catastrophic events with every former president, which is another reason why they don't take away a passport, because God forbid there's a catastrophic event and they got to move the guy. They don't want it to be held up because he doesn't have the proper documentation. So that's why, as a national security wise, that's one of the reasons, that they're not going to take away that guy's passport, as opposed to, like in my case, where they dumped 17 different passports out on the table with different names. They had to take away my passport because, they didn't know whether or not, I had the means or the ways to just, disappear. Like Kareem said, the guy's got people all over him all the time. It's not like he's just going to go poof. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if, they didn't make a camp, like a federal camp, specifically just for the president, and there was no one else there.
If he were supposed to spend any time.
If he was. And again, I'm in agreement with Kareem and John, and I just think it would be I don't like the guy. I don't like any of his policies, but I really feel that if we put this gentleman in federal prison, it's going to be a huge detriment to national security.
Kareem?
I think that there's another element of this that we really have to think about. I think that there's a martyr element of this, and I'm not talking about to the extent of death, but there has been a significant rise in domestic terrorism among certain white supremacist groups that are often galvanized by what winds up happening involving Donald Trump. I think that there will be some additional consideration of how much more splintered we will ultimately be and how much more we'd have to worry about domestic terrorism when we have the former president of the United States, someone with the reach of Donald Trump, who ultimately winds up serving time in prison. I think that's another element that has to be considered. I believe that There have been instances where when there was the raid at Mar-a-Lago, there was actually an attack on an FBI officer as a result of it, and they're seeing instances of this. So I think I just think that
Also,
there
the
are a number.
January 6th insurrection when he with the presidency. So that's another example.
Well, you know what? But
There are a number of considerations.
But the overall look.
That's a great point.
And the perception, and unfortunately, perception becomes reality. This fits right into the Republican talking points, where they talk about how the federal government, how the present government is being used as a weapon against people who do not conform with their ideologies. You know, to hear the FBI, to hear certain governmental agencies, to the extent in which they're going to do this, to get this done, a lot of people wonder. And this is the president of the United States, the former president of the United States. Can you imagine what they do to people like you and I on a daily basis, who don't have the means and the resources to push back against them?
So I have a question for both
Before
of you.
your question, so it was a waste of time to even do any of
That's
this.
exactly what my question was going to be. So what's the point?
Why bother when you know that the end result is not going to enter or do anything? So it's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. He's going to be a free for all. He could do whatever. That's the message that's being messaged. That's what's being sent. So yes, you can indict people. You could do this. You could do that. But it's just a crock of bull.
And to add to Dr. Brown's question is he, again, like Jamie Foxx's movie, above the law?
Wait, I'm sorry. Is that seriously in question?
Yes, it is. It's seriously a question. Because I'm going back to, that's exactly what I was going to ask. And it's like Dr. Bryant was reading my mind. What's the point? It's a waste of time.
Well,
a waste of taxpayers' money. What's the
I
point?
will say this. If we widen our gaze for a little bit, I think there's a couple of different ways to be able to look at this, right? If we look at it and say, if the only acceptable takeaway from this is if we see him in prison uniform, then yes, this is all a waste of time, because I just don't think that's going to happen. I do think, though, that the 4 years of the Donald Trump presidency had a significant impact on the institutions in this country, particularly the FBI, the Department of Justice, and other institutions that he was willing to really erode for his own purposes. I do think there is. I'm sorry.
You talk about for his own purposes, but you know what? But what he actually did was he shined the light on the way the institutions, the Department of Justice, the FBI, do business, and how political it is. When you got an Andrew McCabe, when you have Peter Strzok working with those supervisors, the things that they said and actually were going to do. He basically put a microscope on the way they do this. This is a daily routine and activity of the feds and what they do to people on a daily basis. Everybody looks at the federal government and especially the feds, and they say, oh, you know what? If the feds bring a case against you, they have this tremendous conviction rate. The feds are worse than the mob to the extent in which they do in order to get the convictions. It is unbelievable. So that's one. I compliment the former president on highlighting the injustices that we've always talked about, but the Republicans never wanted to agree to it until one of their own went through or received the injustices that we received
Receiving
from the feds, from the Department of Justice. I just had to jump in and say that because I'm sorry.
Yeah, John, I'll take that a step further. I often refer to former President Trump as an evil genius. I think that he showed an understanding of this country that a lot of us lack. some of the things that he said and then the way that he operates shows that he has a fundamental understanding of what America is that most of us we deny on a
Correct.
regular
You're
basis.
correct.
So I agree with that.
You're
I
correct.
do think, though, whether it
But
be
they
right
always
or
talk
wrong,
about, Kareem and Bob, they always talk about, what about Biden? He took these documents when he was a senator in the Corvette. What about Mike Pence? To me, it's all different because every identification, they may have been in possession, but when they are, like you said, Bob, you talk about the grace period. When they asked for the documents, they turned them over. When they found that they had them, they notified them. Different from what the former president did.
the timeline for what happened, I think, is very interesting. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Bob. But the timeline is what's really striking about what happened. I mean, you're talking about this entire exchange began in February of 2021, and he basically danced with them all the way up and through the end of last year. Even after they threatened, the National Archivists ultimately threatened to get the DOJ involved. They opened the investigative jury, subpoenas were issued, and still the dance continued. Like the question of whether or not obstructing was going on, just from a layperson's view, this is stuff that we would never tolerate. In just looking at it in our own activities, you can't see any legitimate law enforcement organization tolerating what was happening there. I mean, it's providing affidavits from, people that are responsible for, lawyers that are responsible for checking documents, testing to the fact that thorough searches were made and no additional documents were provided. And it turns out to be a lie. It was a dance that was going on for a significant period of time. There's no question about it. The conduct was egregious.
I mean, going back to, let's not look, because that's also one of our audience questions. Are the names that John just mentioned, are they, can former President Trump put that into his defense? Starting with you, Bob.
Well, first of all, to John's point, I think that one thing that's forgotten, and I can say this because I was in the organization, the FBI may not be as politicized as people think, because the FBI is a good old boys club. And when Trump took a dump on Andrew McCabe, the FBI, he was going to be the next director. He was in line to be the next director. The guy is like, he's a phenomenal guy. I worked many cases with him, and I think that, the good old boys club got together and said, hey, you're going to screw with us. You're going to screw with one of ours. Well, we're coming after you. And it might be more that. And then the Democrats picked up on it and just jumped on the pony that was riding the fastest, and kind of like, rode the race. But I think in the beginning, the Bureau was just pissed off that, one of their own had been dragged through the ringer like that. And, that's something you got to keep in the back of your mind, because, that thin blue line is a big deal when it comes to, your federal agencies, especially. But, I do agree with John that the government agencies, can be weaponized. I mean, that goes all the way back from Hoover's day. Hoover was the king of that. Nobody broke more rules than J. Edgar Hoover under the guise of following the law. You go into the FBI closed files, and there's volume after volume after volume about Martin Luther King. And, you can't even get at them. You can't even read it. They won't even let you read it. JFK the same way. There's stuff that went on. There's stuff that still goes on. There's stuff that I was involved in that, would make the general public be like, is that even allowed? But under the guise of national security, which is the most important thing in the United States of America, it trumps, not to use Trump, but it's above even our own personal safety. Those agencies, they will do whatever they need to do to protect that. And, that's why I really feel that, the only chance that the prosecution really has in this case, and Kareem, correct me if I'm wrong, because you're the, this stuff. I'm just spouting it out. But, there's a thing called a Cinderella document. And what it is when you have a CIPA hearing and it involves classified information, the government can say, look, we're not going to bring in any classified documents. However, we are going to bring in sensitive documents that could be classified, and the information is just as important or damaging. And they're going to have to rate the damage of what it would have cost if it got out of the bathroom and into the wrong hands. And that's the way that the federal government can get around the whole CIPA hearing. And I really think that that's that's their only shot at this, of getting him any time, if they even ask for it.
Thank you. Just to also let you know that we are sponsored and brought to you by the World Domino Federation. Domino Weekend coming up August 11th through the 13th. If you have a domino team or you think that you're good, do come out and register on the worlddominoes.com, or you can email info@worlddominoes.com. So it will be held at 1330 Utica Avenue, Brooklyn, New York. If you want to come out, DJ Barry and DJ Jazz Boy, DJ Chocolate, we're coming out on Friday. They have a team. So if you have a team out there who wants to play dominoes, I think it's a 14-person team, come out. Random game is on. If you just want to play and you think you're good enough to win it at random, come out on August 12th. Come out on August 13th for the mental peer tournament. So the flyer has a little bit backwards. So I do know the mental teams is on Friday. The mental peers is on Sunday. The random is on Saturday. So come out. There's a fish fry, DJ, music, and just come out and simply enjoy yourself on that day. Contact several numbers to contact. Sniper at 929-413-4003. Tony at 917. 823-5274. Dawn up there on her Connecticut line at 203-545. Is that zero, John? 0764. So just reach out and come out and play. Come out and enjoy the weekend. We have a couple more minutes left, gentlemen, but we want to finish up. And, before anything else. So
actually, just to Dr. Bryant's main question, I was, running on too much. The whole point is, is it worth doing it all? Well, yeah, it is, because it will show the public that, no one is above the law, especially if they explain it when they say the reason that he's not going to go to prison is because it'll hurt the national security of the United States.
But he could run again for office. That's the thing. It defeats.
Actually, you know what? There's no law that precludes him from running even from prison. He can run from prison.
He can run for office. He could do whatever he wants. So it is frustrating and a waste of time. So on that point, don't forget to go and vote, because elections start this Saturday.
Yes.
Voting for your local. Only New York City, though. Only New York City. Only this New York City Council race and civil court judge.
Listen, go and vote. It's local. It's not on the presidential, but go out.
So if you're in New York, get to that. I want to finish up with a question. I don't know if John has a final question before I ask my question.
Thank you.
I did partially get the answer from Bob, right? From Robert, the answer. So I want it from Kareem. And going back to Dr. Bryant's question, very simple, 30 seconds, because we have less than 4 or 5 minutes left on the show. Should they continue? You are the lawyer, you're the civil defense, you're the defense attorney. Hey, get rid of this crap because it's garbage, it's a waste of U.S. time. Or
what's the point?
No, what's the point? Kareem, you have the final say, and like Bob said, yes, they should do it. What do you think? Do you agree, Bob? Don't think of it from a voter. Think of it from a lawyer.
Absolutely, they should do it. And there's more to come.
So
we still have Georgia. We still have January 6th. There's more to come. And
But
you know what?
after that, what happens?
What, I mean, what's the point? I
Yeah.
think that's what we're all asking. What's the point of doing this? Beyond saying that nobody's ultimately he is going to be above the law, because based on what both of you are saying, and you guys are more expert than everybody else in the student, everybody in the audience who have ideas and opinions, right? Have ideas, and yours is an opinion, but your opinions are coming from a stronger place than ours, right?
The point is
He's not going to be arrested, right?
the point is the preservation of the imperfect systems.
But he's not having any consequence.
You know what? It matters less when it comes to him than it does when it comes to others. The
Exactly.
system, even in its imperfectness,
Broken
needs to be preserved. It has to be
Perfectly imperfect.
It has to be preserved. As much as we have problems with police officers, we pick up that phone and dial 911 when there's a certain problem that we have, and we expect them to function. The system is imperfect, but it's necessary, and the system has to be preserved. Now,
Or it has to be changed.
now that's the point I was just about to make. One of the things that this ultimately does is highlight the need for change, and sometimes it takes these kinds of abuses and this kind of ineffectiveness in order to bring about certain changes to the system. But right now, the system is damaged in significant ways. It has to be preserved. It has to be. I think that's the utility of doing this. It has to be.
Well, here's the thing. The disappointing thing with that is you have other Republicans and other Democrats and other politicians who will see this and go even further. For example, the census. Hey, they see he's getting away with this, so they're going to keep on pushing. But the funny thing about that is Trump's partner in crime, who was moving the boxes, he's not going to get the nice, settle, easy way out as Trump is getting it. He's going to pay the price. All these yes people who want to follow him, they're paying the ultimate price. But this man is getting away scot-free. That's what I say.
On that note, Dr. Brian, I want to thank our guests. I want to thank Kareem. We appreciate your perspective. Bob, I always thank you for just taking the time out to come and sharing your point of views. To me, this was a very fruitful conversation, a dialogue that we need to have. And, villagers, I hope you appreciate it. So you understand the importance of, I think Dr. Brian said it succinctly, getting out there and voting. If you want to change the system, you have to get out there, not only register to vote, you have to actually vote and make the changes that are necessary so we can make the imperfect system a little bit more tolerable. We won't ever make it perfect, but make it a little bit more fairer when it comes to the ordinary people like us on a day-to-day basis.
Wait. Before we leave, ultimate weekend for our gentlemen, our fathers. We want to take time out to celebrate all the
Kareem, Bob, with your happy Father's Day.
To all of you,
Thank you
for being there for our babies, for our young folks, for being a representative, for being the man you all are. For my co-hosts, Roderick and John, Kareem, Mr. Robert, thank you so much for being leaders, standing up for our young folks.
Can you call my wife?
I think all of us men, Bob, are saying, can you call our wife? Because we want to know who she's talking about. Right?
We appreciate and value you. No, Father's Day is as important as Mother's Day. And I'm saying it on behalf of the females. You matter. You are important.
Oh, God.
Happy Father's Day. Thank
you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Also before we close, just saying happy birthday to both. Happy birthday today to Dr. Brian, and happy birthday on Saturday. And Juneteenth. Did you go out and celebrate?
Definitely.
That
really is.
It's the second year of being a national holiday.
That's right.
So go out and celebrate. So God bless each and every one of you.
God bless.
Thank you for watching The Village, where we're dedicated to empower the community to live a healthy, safe, and financially capable life through education, helping each one of us in realizing our dreams at any age, at any point. Thank you for sharing, listening, viewing, participating on The Village Radio Talk Show. See you next time. God bless.
Nice meeting you, Kareem.
Yeah, same, Bob. Same, Bob. Good to be with you guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everybody.
Good show.
Okay, take care. Bye bye.
Good show. Very informative.